Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a somewhat impromptu stream of an article read. I don't do these very often, but when I do, I do them. Yes, the title of this article popped up in my Twitter feed a couple hours ago, and as a consequence of that, I thought to myself, that is a very bizarre way to frame a story, at least the way that the tweet did. And I thought to myself as well, I used to have a series on here called Expatriate Games, where I covered issues dealing with immigration and such. And I haven't really done an entry in that in quite a while. I guess it just kind of fell by the wayside or something. So, hey, everything lines up, I guess. So let's go through this. Before I get into that, who's joining me on this sudden and surprise Friday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, stream? Evil One, Matt Barnes, Somnamnul Nation, Corey Suzuki, Funtime Bats, Shady Grin, Keeverdam, and good morning to you all. And for those of you listening in the future or otherwise, please direct your attention to the top of the chat box. There's a few GoFundMes up there to help out some of our friends of the show, Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you have a couple of extra bucks, I know that they would appreciate it. Neon Leon, good afternoon. Hey, Camel, hello. All right, so let's jump into this. When I saw this, I was kind of like, well, duh. What did you expect? That's the thought in my head. I was like, well, what did you expect? It's like that scene from Arrested Development where he opens up the fridge and there's a little brown bag there that just says, what was it, like dead bird on it or something? And he opens it up and he like, I don't know what I expected, right? The border wall Trump called unclimbable is taking a grim toll. Okay. Statistics unveiled in the medical journal JAMA Surgery offer one of the first attempts to measure the toll of injury and death resulting from falls along new sections of the wall. I want to stop here for a second. And now, for those of you that have watched Lords of the Night for any period of time or heard me talk about these things on any particular occasion, you'll know that I am no fan of people dying to try to get across the border. I'm no fan of people putting their lives, the lives of their loved ones, and especially the lives of their children at risk to cross the border illegally. No fan of it at all. And the people who do it, the people who choose to put themselves in harm's way, if you're an adult, you take your chances. You put kids involved, that's another thing. But either way, you come up to a large barrier. I'm going to start doing a Beyond Zork scenario for you here. For those of you that even understand that reference, excuse me, you're old. Anyway, so you encounter a wall. The wall is 50 feet high. 30 feet high. There is no easy way to traverse this wall. What do you do? The wall looks imposing. The wall seems to say, do not cross here. Anyway, let's go through this. San Diego. In the trauma wards of this city's major hospitals, patients from the border have arrived every day with gruesome injuries. Skull fractures, broken vertebra, and shattered limbs, their lower extremities twisted into deranged angles. The patients have fallen from new 30-foot segments of President Donald Trump's border wall, a structure he touted as a Rolls-Royce that, quote, can't be climbed, unquote. His administration built more formidable barriers in the San Diego area than anywhere else along the southern border, with miles of double-layer steel fencing, but that has not stopped more and more migrants from trying to scale it. Well, here's a thought. A locked door only keeps out an honest man. People are willing and completely at their own choice to throw themselves into a dangerous situation. You might have some dangerous consequences as a result. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials say they do not tally deaths and injuries resulting from such falls. Okay. But new statistics published Friday by UC San Diego physicians in the medical journal JAMA Surgery provide one of the first attempts to measure the toll. Yes, the toll of people choosing to put their lives at risk of their own volition. Since 2019, when the barrier's height was raised to 30 feet along much of the border of California, the number of patients arriving at the UC San Diego Medical Center's trauma ward after falling off the structure has jumped fivefold to 375, the physicians found. Falling deaths at the barrier went from 0 to 16 during that time, according to the report, citing records maintained by the San Diego County Medical Examiner. Quote, "I never expected we would have to climb the wall," unquote, said Hector Almeida, a 33-year-old dentist from Cuba, recovering this week in the trauma ward at UC San Diego Health. Well, Hector, perhaps if you had entered the country legally, you wouldn't have had a wall to encounter. I mean, this sounds like a self-inflicted error. He fractured his left leg in a fall Monday. Smugglers led his group to the wall with a ladder and told them to climb up and slide down the other side, said Almeida, who said he saw one woman fall and break both legs and an older man with a severe head injury. The falling incidents, this sounds a lot like, remember when the killer SUV plowed into all those people in Wisconsin this past winter? Oh, the SUV did it. Yeah, the falling incident. Okay. The falling incidents are a subset of the soaring number of injuries, deaths, and rescues occurring all across the southern border, where immigration arrests have reached an all-time high under President Biden. Yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder why a whole bunch of people are putting their lives at risk to cross the border more so than ever before. I can't imagine why that might be. It couldn't be because of certain rhetoric, certain promises, certain declarations made on the campaign trail by the Biden administration or the, proto-Biden administration. No, it couldn't be, sending out signals that we're going to relax, lessen, or eliminate the laws and restrictions that were in place under Trump and previously under Obama. No, okay. Migrants attempting to evade capture have drowned in the Rio Grande, died of exposure in South Texas and Arizona, and disappeared into the Pacific Ocean during smuggling attempts at sea. Yes, if you put your life at risk, your life is at risk. If you attempt to cross into this country illegally through illegal means, there is a chance that something bad will happen to you. And I don't have much sympathy for grown adults who do it, but man, the people who put their kids at risk, I have even less sympathy for. What's different is that the border wall is a man-made obstacle that poses a lethal danger and public health challenge where one did not exist previously. Then stay away from it. The wall is not hunting people. It is not a thresher system. It is a standalone structure that people are deciding to climb and then fall off of. It's like those stuntmen that decide to climb, the Sears Tower or something with nothing but their own hands and be Spider-Man. And then it all goes wrong. Dr. Jay Doucette, chief of the trauma division at UC San Diego Health, said injuries along the border wall occurred before its increase in height, but the older, shorter version of the barrier, ranging from 9 to 17 feet, was not lethal. Neither is this wall. The wall does not kill people. It's just standing there. It is a barrier. The wall is not lethal. It's not a bunch of spikes. It's not a bunch of rotating blades. It is a standalone structure that people are choosing to climb. I don't know. I'm probably going to repeat this several times because this article doesn't want to accept the fact that this is a self-chosen injury. Quote, once you go over 20 feet and up to 30 feet, the chances of severe injury and death are higher, he said. You don't say. We're seeing injuries we didn't see before. Pelvic fractures, spinal cord injuries, brain injuries, and a lot of open fractures when the bone comes through the skin. Yeah, gravity kills. There's a plug for the band. At Scripps Mercy Hospital and other major trauma centers in the San Diego area, border wall falling victims accounted for 16% of the 230 patients treated last month, a higher share than gunshot and stabbing cases, according to Director of Trauma Dr. Vishal Bansal. You know what the difference is probably between most of those gunshot and stabbing cases and your falling victims? The falling victims were self-inflicted. Self-chosen. Now that old Mad Season song, My Pain is Self-Chosen. Quote, I've never seen anything like this, Bansal said in an interview. This is crazy. His trauma ward treated 139 border wall patients injured by falls last year, up from 41 in 2020. Oh, so the number of people attempting to get into the country illegally has increased since 2020. Yeah, you said that earlier. Those injured by falls, yes, often require complex intensive care and multiple phase surgeries, according to San Diego physicians. Lacking health insurance, many are ineligible for physical therapy and rehabilitation programs, so they remain longer in hospitals, which absorb millions in unreimbursed costs. Gosh, if only people would stop trying to break the law. And if only California wasn't a sanctuary state giving people incentive to come there. If only. Guy, can we see a cause and effect going on here between a administration in the White House that has signaled more often than not that they're willing to lessen the penalties and restrictions of people attempting to cross the border, and then an entire state that in its virtuous righteousness has decided to say, yes, please, put yours and your children's lives at risk to come here. We will welcome you. As much as climbing a giant wall and risking physical injury is a pain self-chosen, California, this is your pain, self-chosen. When the Trump administration developed a series of wall prototypes in San Diego in 2017, the most difficult to climb featured a rounded, barrel-shaped top. But congressional appropriations for the barrier limited development to existing barrier... But congressional appropriations for the barrier limited development to existing barrier designs, and Trump told aides he preferred the spiky look of the steel bollards, which he considered more intimidating. If it's going to mitigate people attempting to get themselves either arrested or put into physical injury or come into the country illegally, etc., 30 feet was determined to be the optimal height for new barriers because it balanced cost concerns with U.S. Customs and Border Protection's desire to give agents more time to respond by making it more difficult to climb, according to officials involved in the design. 5 years later, the evidence for Arizona Governor Jan Napolitano's quip, quote, show me a 50-foot wall and I'll show you a 51-foot ladder, unquote, is plain to see along the dusty road that edges the barrier south of San Diego. Yes, a locked door only keeps out an honest man. There's only so much you can do to deter someone from putting their life and limb in danger. If they're going to do it anyway, they're going to do it anyway. And guess whose fault it is if something goes wrong? Improvised ladders litter the brush along the base of the wall between the San Isidro, I'm probably mispronouncing that, and Otay Mesa crossings. Some are fashioned from segments of metal rebar, but the more sophisticated versions use lightweight aluminum with sections that fit together like tent poles. Smugglers hook them to the top of the wall and hurry immigrants 30 feet up into the air, often with little explanation for how to get down. Man, it almost doesn't sound like a professional operation or something. Boy, there ought to be some... some workplace regulations for sort of like, smuggling operations, some sort of like, injury insurance or something, right? For smuggling operations. Many of the injuries appear to occur as migrants attempt to descend. Do you mean to tell me that injuries from falling occur when someone's attempting to descend? Okay. Videos posted to social media have shown athletic young men breezily shimmying up and gripping the bollards like fire poles to zip down the other side. But that type of skilled maneuver is beyond the abilities of many migrants who typically attempt to climb at night to avoid detection. Well, obviously, what we have to do is build in fences to the walls to better accommodate the people who can't shimmy and help them get across the border illegally. Because I can't wait to see where this article goes with this, if the author decides to make some recommendations or find someone with an argument to the contrary. Quote, one thing I have noticed is the people who are falling are not as athletic as you think they would be to go up ladder like that, said Doucette. They are middle-aged and a fair number of women, even pregnant women. Yeah, just put you and your unborn child at bodily risk, crossing a desert, climbing a 30-foot wall with no way down on the other side. Those who fall backward while attempting to slide down can land on their heads and necks, you don't say. Some of the deceased are recent deportees with homes, jobs, and families in the U.S. side, like Efron Medina Villegas, 56, killed in a fall last year near the Otay Mesa crossing in San Diego. Quote, he was trying to get back to his family, said brother-in-law Reynaldo Medina, reached by phone. He was trying to get illegally back to his family. He was trying to climb a 30-foot wall without a safe way down. You mean he chose to do this? His intent is irrelevant. The Trump administration built 450 miles new fencing. You mean of new fencing? You know, I'd almost think I was reading a CNN article, but no, this is the Washington Post. The Trump administration built 450 miles new fencing along the Mexico border at a cost of roughly $11 billion, mostly replacing older, smaller barriers with 3-story steel bollards anchored in concrete. Biden halted construction after taking office, but his administration has developed plans to close open gaps, mostly in Arizona. Oh. Republicans have hammered Biden's decision to halt construction, campaigning ahead of November's midterm elections with calls to complete the structure. Ronald Vitiello, I'm probably mispronouncing that, former chief of the Border Patrol, said the large number of migrant releases into the United States occurring under Biden has created an incentive and driven ever riskier attempts to cross. You don't say. Quote, more traffic equals more misery and death from all causes, unquote, he said. Surprise, surprise. In locations where gaps remain in the barrier, injuries and deaths appear to be less frequent. Do you mean to tell me that where people can slip into the country without having to climb a wall, there are fewer deaths and injuries? Who is this? Is this written for like 17-year-olds or something? But in border areas with new contiguous segments of 30-foot fencing, such as the deserts west of El Paso, across eastern Arizona, and along California's Imperial Valley, falling incidents have soared. UC San Diego Health has converted a postpartum wing into a makeshift recovery ward for border wall patients. The wall is not attacking them. With many requiring multiple phase surgeries and long-term rehabilitation, but lacking insurance. Dr. Amy Leppert, the director of acute care surgery at UC San Diego Health, said the hospital is looking for help, having incurred at least $13 million in costs from border wall patients alone. Quote, we need policies that fund the care that's being delivered in order to make sure we're providing access for our other populations that need trauma care, Leppert said. Well, here's a policy. How about not being a sanctuary state? How about not giving everybody an incentive to put their lives at risk? I mean, you're still caring for these people, right? You're not turning them out on the street with a skull fracture, I'm assuming. Are they going to end up having to pay you back? Is there any downside to this for them, aside from the injuries that they effectively self-inflict? Leipert said the volume of falling victims from the border wall is straining San Diego's entire trauma system. The sanctuary state being strained by Too many. Okay. Quote, it means trauma surgeons, medical teams, the ICU, therapists, and others have grossly increased workloads, she said. I can't imagine why that is. Almeida, the dentist from Cuba who broke his leg, said he was knocked off the top of the wall when others in his group rushed to climb a single ladder as Mexican police approached from the south. He was able to partly grab the bollards and slow his fall, sparing a worse injury. So, in attempting to escape law enforcement and putting your life at bodily risk of your own accord, you were injured. Okay. Some smugglers use ropes and harnesses to lower clients safely onto the U.S. side. Well, that's thoughtful of them. But that technique has proven dangerous as well. Really? Earlier this month, a Mexican woman wearing a harness got stuck descending the wall near Douglas, Arizona, and died from asphyxiation after hanging upside down for several hours. What an absolute waste. An absolute waste. I mean, you see these. You don't hear about this all that often. I've talked about this before. I have a family member who works on the border or deals with border security, and the horror stories, the things that don't make it to the media because they're just the saddest thing ever. You know, people like I even mentioned in this article, people like dying of thirst in the desert. You know, their desiccated bodies being found weeks or months after they've already died by Mexican authorities or U.S. authorities. Photos of children drowned in the Rio Grande. Right? And now this. And what is the common denominator here? Thank you, Keltrig. It's almost as if doing dangerous things puts you at risk of bodily harm. Who'd have thought? Yeah, that's why I'm very curious to know if there is any kind of conclusion, resolution, suggestion, etc. in this article. Like, how could this be? Whose fault is this? Because the way the article is framed in its title, you'd think it's Donald Trump's fault that people are falling and breaking their heads open. Okay. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials say they are amplifying their safety warnings and intensifying efforts to target smugglers. Quote, there are not strong enough words to describe the actions of these smugglers who are personally responsible for the deaths and injuries they cause to very vulnerable populations, unquote. Patricia McGurk-Daniel, Deputy Chief of the Border Patrol's San Diego sector, said in an interview. The smugglers are accountable to a point. They are accountable to a point. But once you decide to climb the wall, when you decide to shimmy or to put your foot on that ladder, you're taking your own life in your own hands. Don't get me wrong, the smugglers are not innocent angels in this or something. But there's a distinct lack of acknowledging personal responsibility here. This article so far has put the onus on everything and everyone but the people being injured. I wonder if that'll change. I guess we'll find out. She and other Border Patrol officials say the barrier remains an essential border security tool, but not an unclimbable one. Do you mean to tell me that because Donald Trump was hyperbolic in his description of the wall's capabilities that somehow that changes reality or makes it, not the person's fault who fell off the wall? Quote, infrastructure alone was never intended to be a stopgap for everything, McGurk-Daniel said. Yes, a locked door only keeps out an honest man. Quote, we need a multi-tiered approach that includes technology, boots on the ground, and comprehensive immigration reform. Well, I mean, there was a whole bunch of people curtailing the money that was meant to be spent on the wall. So what are you proposing? In trauma medicine, a fall from a height of 40 feet is considered 50% lethal, meaning only half of patients survive their injuries. Do you mean to tell me that 50% lethal means that half of the people die? You ever feel like your intelligence is being insulted and you're the one reading it to yourself? Because that's what I'm doing right now. Bonsall described it as, quote, akin to being hit by a car at a moderate rate of speed. Yes, the speed, gravity kills. So does inertia. The San Diego Medical Examiner reports describe unspeakable injuries. But you're going to describe them to us now? Amit Garcia Mendez, a 31-year-old from Mexico, fell 35 feet to the ground last March, where he was found dead by agents. He died of cranial and chest fractures with multiple perforated organs, an autopsy showed. Yes, fall damage. Fall damage. No. Marifer Jimon Rojas, I'm probably mispronouncing this, I apologize. A 19-year-old from Mexico died in 2020 from a broken neck and multiple fractures to the skull and sternum. In 2019, an expectant mother fell from the wall, broke her pelvis, and lost her unborn son weeks before her due date. Yep. And of everybody that's been described so far, that is the person I have the least sympathy for. You want to throw yourself into the abyss and take your chances, and you're a grown adult who can make your own decisions, fine. You want to be an idiot, you want to be a moron, fine. You take a unaware or, not even fully formed human being into the mix. Quote, it's absolutely tragic, and it's not deterring anyone. It's only harming people, said Jules Kramer, co-director of the Minority Humanitarian Foundation, a nonprofit in San Diego that has cared for several migrants injured in falls. It's not deterring anyone. It's only harming people. Okay, Jules Kramer, what do you suggest be done? What do you suggest be done? I mean, do you think that removing the walls is going to increase or decrease the amount of illegal immigration taking place? Do you think the removing of the wall will increase or decrease the number of people dying in the Rio Grande, dying from thirst on the way there, being victimized by smugglers? What do you propose? What is your solution? Last year, Kramer and her colleague, Mark Lane, aided an 18-year-old girl who fell from the wall and suffered 5 broken vertebrae and a leg fracture. They raised nearly $10,000 to medevac the teen to a hospital close to her relatives in Northern California. Yeah, just imagine if she had, gone through the hoops and come to the country legally. She survived and regained the ability to walk, according to her attorney, Priscilla Higuera. I'm glad to hear it. Quote, you couple this bigger, taller wall with Title 42 and remain in Mexico, and it's a recipe for disaster, said Higuera, referring to pandemic-era border restrictions and the Trump-era program reinstated by federal courts that returned some asylum seekers to Mexico. Yes, everything we can do to tell people don't come here illegally. It's a recipe for disaster. Well, okay, what is your solution in the alternative? No walls, no laws, no punishments, no restrictions? Is that it? What are you proposing? You think there's not a recipe for disaster in having fewer restrictions and fewer deterrents? Higuera said she has multiple clients who suffered injuries after falling, some of whom are discharged from trauma wards and deported or sent to immigration detention. Yeah, you know why that is? Because they came here illegally. If you jump over someone's fence and break your leg, that doesn't mean you get to stay on their property. You jumped the fence. Smugglers saw through Trump's border wall using ordinary power tools when they aren't climbing it. Oh, so you mean to tell me that criminals are going to commit crimes? Huh, golly. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has tallied more than 3,000 breaches since 2019, records show, and along the barrier Thursday, a welding crew was busy fixing a badly damaged span. Nearly every steel bollard that had been nearly every steel bollard had been sawed through and patched with a metal sleeve. Some had been cut through 4 times. And that's the end of the article. That's the end of the article. There's not even from their own interview subjects is there any idea of what to do in the alternative. There's no recommendation. There's no conclusion to it. People put their lives at risk and get hurt. Film at 11. What do you propose otherwise? I'm all for it. If somebody has a solution to this, where people are going to stop breaking the law to get into this country, are going to stop putting their lives at risk to get into this country, who are going to stop putting innocent children's lives at risk to get into this country, by all means, you tell me. But the amazing thing about this article, and I said it before, at no point is the responsibility for these injuries placed upon the individual who chose to climb to 30 feet and then try to slide down the other side. The wall did this. The falls did this. No, someone put themselves into bodily danger, and many of them suffered bodily injury as a result. And so what are we to learn from this? Gravity kills. That's it. That's it. And California is asking for these problems. They are contributing to the problem with their own policies and laws. They are saying to anyone who wants to try to get across the border, if you make it to California, you've got a free ride. We'll heal your bones, give you a place to stay, on and on and on. And so people will continue to put their lives and the lives of their children at risk to do so because they have an incentive. The incentive of California is larger, apparently, than the disincentive of a 30-foot wall that could kill you if you fall off of it. So, I don't know what to tell you. This isn't a mystery. This isn't a whodunit. But the Washington Post apparently, or at least the author here, Nick Miroff, decides to pretend as though there's not something called personal responsibility involved in this somewhere. So, anyway, that's all I had to say. Just read the article. I'll take a second here to get some comments from you guys. But Renovescio, the same party and ideology pursuing a policy of effective open borders also want universal free health care for all inside U.S. borders, irrespective of citizenship, a recipe for disaster. The more incentives you give people to put their lives at risk on the chance of a free ride or free resources that they otherwise would not have, the numbers are only going to increase. Illegal immigration is never going to stop. I don't have any illusions about that there's a cure-all or something. But the numbers have not gone down in the last 2 years, and they won't go down. At least if the policies and rhetoric keep up as they are. Let's see. Jago Dragon, scribe your victim blaming. You can't hold these criminals responsible for the injuries caused by trusting other criminals. How dare you? Look, I'm not completely without sympathy for someone trying to make a better life for themselves, but you do so through the safe legal means. If you've got an argument to come to this country legally as an asylum seeker, by all means, we've got the laws for that. We have the process for that. It's going to take forever, and you don't necessarily just get to walk across the line, but it's not worth it to throw yours and your kids' lives into a meat grinder when you can just apply with paperwork. Is there any guarantee? No. But I'll tell you what, a guarantee of being denied access is a hell of a lot better than cracking your head open. Let's see. Keeverdam, walls and laws are almost anagrams. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about trying to do some wordplay there, but I couldn't. In the time that I gave myself to put this together, I couldn't come up with something any more interesting. So I decided to go with, the law of gravity, except it's the law and gravity, and I use the law and order font. Yeah, so I was. It's a busy day. It's month end. What can I say? Let's see. And Bridget, hello. And with that, guys, I'm going to call it here. Yeah, just an article read, just a reaction. I hadn't been sure what was going to happen in this article, what they were going to tell us, but yeah, it's not your fault. You fell off a 30-foot wall that you climbed. It's a barrier. It's a barrier that carries with it a risk of attempting to cross, just like the Rio Grande, just like the desert. And if you choose to put yourself in harm's way, it's not that I don't have, empathy and a humanitarian level for it, but at the same time, it's like, what did you expect? Thank you, Jago Dragon. The victim blaming was a joke, maybe not a good one. I didn't expect you to actually read it. Well, I occasionally do read the comments, and I don't. I'm not harping on you or anything. The other part of the equation here is that there are people who are in decidedly desperate situations and they don't have a whole lot of options. And when you don't have a whole lot of options, when you feel like you're backed into a corner, sometimes the least desirable way to get out is still a way to get out. I mean, we can all understand that on a psychological basis. We've all been there in some way, shape, or form, either physically, emotionally, or otherwise. It's not that I don't understand what drives people to take these risks. But at the end of the day, you've taken the risk. Making a bad decision, even for understandable reasons, is still a bad decision. And the politicians and the policymakers who are giving people more incentives to put their lives at risk are not helping the matter. The UC Medical Center that is now overwhelmed. Why are they overwhelmed? How much more money is going to be lost? How much more time is going to be lost? How many more people who need help are going to have that help winnowed or mitigated because of the influx of people being injured or dying or otherwise from choosing to put their lives at risk? Because California is a big beacon of all you have to do is make it here. Those mean federal laws and federal enforcement guys, if you can get past them, you're on easy street. It's not the truth, but, hold out a bucket of poisoned water to a thirsty man and he might just end up drinking it. Anyway, everybody, that's it. I'm going to stop my tirade there. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to hear more from me by any chance, you can find me here Sunday, not for the regular Sunday stream, mind you, but Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Alaska time, 11 a.m. Monday, New Zealand time, where I will be talking to Inhuman Form and Matt Orchard, two crime and society YouTube content creators, about some various things I have on my mind that I wanted to ask them. I've interviewed them each individually before, and I had an idea of something to talk about with both of them together. So look forward to that on Sunday. Again, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. But until then, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have so very little to do. Everyone who donated either to myself or to any of the GoFundMes pinned at the top of the chat box, thank you so much for your generosity. We all really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.